attempts at the Index, which is this whole journey we are about to go on is just to get this fucking thing.
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Sean.
And we're here to play the library.
Yes, part 7 of our Halo Let's Play series.
I love this cutscene where the camera is disembodied going through.
Yes.
Over to the Chief and 343.
We've rejoined them. Don't really have any idea who this guy is yet, but he's just like, hey, we've got some shits going down. I know how to take care of it, and the Master Chief doesn't have a lot of options. And so we are going to spend the next hour or so walking through a lot of rooms that look like this, and fighting a lot of enemies that look like this, especially our new friend here.
Explodey Halo.
Carrier forms. Yes, or the Explodey Halo guy, as you put it. So eloquently, Jonathan.
I meant Explodey Flood guy, but I like Explodey Halo. Now I sound like our mom coming in and explaining Halo.
That's the Explodey Halo guy, and these are the little poppy Halo guys. And then we're going to fight some other really mean Halo guys later in the level, while we're playing, as you know, Dr. Halo, protagonist of the Halo games.
Anyway, back to what we were talking about. This level is repetitive.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I think the library is an amazing level.
It's something it's kind of a hard level to talk about in some ways, because it goes against every sort of normal convention of what you would say is a good design for a first-person shooter level, and yet I am so weirdly attracted to this level.
Yes. I think this is a great example of how, there are a lot of good rules for game design. Don't be too repetitive. Don't have you go through the same cycle 5 times in a row. Those basic things, right? And yet, this is an example of how the rules don't always apply. Because I can get if you don't like the library. It is a contentious level for a reason. And in the 10 plus years I've been playing this game, I've definitely gone back and forth on how much I love the library.
Right.
But I think, especially the last time I played this, on the Master Chief Collection, doing another playthrough, I really have started to appreciate, I think, the subtle genius of this level, which is to take this new enemy type, the Flood, and throw you in this kind of relentless gauntlet against them, where you are in a series of rooms. The rooms don't change a lot, you don't change a lot, but the Flood keep coming in greater and greater numbers, and the challenge keeps rising and rising. And I think as a piece of video game challenge, it is a really masterful bit of level design. Even if there are, again, a lot of things that you should not look at this level and say, this is how you should build levels, because it's probably not repeatable.
No.
But I think what it does is really interesting and fun, especially on the higher difficulties. It's actually kind of ironic. I think on normal it becomes less fun because it is just shoot them all and get through. But I think if there's a little bit of challenge and you're more at risk of dying, it can be a really interesting, satisfying, challenging level. Getting your ammo, keeping your ammo, figuring out what weapons you're going to use, because there are definitely parts where you're not going to have the weapon you want to use. All of that. It is it's a game of attrition, and I love that.
It is a crucible, It is. You have to go through the fire with the Flood here. And it's actually thinking about it, in some ways it's not that different from, it's basically like the assault on the control room, but for the Flood. And since we are way deeper into the game, you don't have the full ramp up that the Covenant enemy types had to get to assault on the control room, but it is this sense of they have taken all the other sort of variables out of the equation, and it's the level design does not change. Most of the tools that are available to you, you're going to use, for me personally, you use the shotgun and you use the pistol, and you do whatever possible to make sure that you always have the shotgun and you always have the pistol.
Absolutely.
Some people do the assault rifle, those people are wrong.
I will sometimes go shotgun and assault rifle. It kind of also depends on the difficulty.
Yes, but you need the pistol to take these guys out and not use your shotgun ammo on them. And I'm getting eaten.
Because that's a weird thing that can happen here, is that the Chief, they'll just latch onto you and eat you alive.
Yes.
I'm not sure how that works through the armor, but whatever.
Well, if you read the worst novel I've ever read, Halo the Flood by William C. Dietz, you will find out that, they just sort of are able to puncture the little, black parts of, the sort of the under mesh suit or whatever in his armor. And so that's how that works.
I feel bad that we shit on that novel so much, only because we always mention the author by name, and I'm sure it's not completely his fault.
No, he was given a very hard task, but, he put his name on the book.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
The monitor hovered over the human's head. Security doors are locked automatically. I will go access the override to open them. I am a genius, the monitor said matter-of-factly. A pain in the ass is more like it, the Master Chief said to no one in particular.
Yeah, anyways, going to what I was saying before I got cruelly eaten by the Flood, I always go for the pistol on this level because you need it, particularly if you're playing on Legendary. You need it to take out those carrier forms from a distance without using up all your shotgun ammo because you need the shotgun to take these guys out.
Yes. And then the popcorn you can kind of deal with whatever you have.
Yeah.
And there should be enough ammo to get you through, but it does get tough, especially... This is actually an interesting level on co-op, because on co-op, of course, unless both of you die, you'll respawn eventually.
Yes.
But you'll respawn with different weapons, and that actually can become a whole different kind of challenge on co-op in that, you know, if you die in single player here, you're going to retain your weapons from whenever your last checkpoint is, and you don't really have to worry about that. It's more about whether you run out of ammo. But in co-op, it really is, sometimes you have to make do with what you have if you cannot go back and get your original weapons.
Yes. You can also definitely ruin friendships by playing this level on co-op and not being an equitable and caring co-op partner, and, you know, like just taking everyone's ammo or your friend's ammo when they die and refusing to give them, you know, a shotgun or anything.
Or shooting the carrier flood while they're right next to your buddy.
That's also, you know, that's a big one. Because, yeah, let's talk, since we have all three Flood types together now in this level, because this is the first time we're seeing the carrier forms, which are the big ones that explode. We can talk about sort of like how they work as a group, because the Flood are definitely... You have to think about dealing with them in a way that's very different than how you deal with the Covenant enemies. The Covenant enemies is very much about, like, knowing how to flank and get around and get past energy shields. With the Flood, like, they are named the Flood for a reason. They are this, like, oncoming wave of enemies that you just have to learn how to sort of, like, compartmentalize and deal with them. And if you do not stay on top of the Flood, and you do not have a good strategy for, like, how to manage them as they come at you, you will get utterly swarmed, because you have the carrier forms, which will come up and they will explode, and especially if there are grenades on the ground, they will, you know, in Halo 1, proper Halo 1 fashion, they will blow up those grenades as well and cause a giant chain explosion that will absolutely fuck you. But also they are very good at, even if you're on the outer reaches of the explosion, the explosion will take your shield out, which means that you'll be vulnerable to the infection forms like these guys, which normally, these guys are nothing. They're not a big deal. They travel in packs and they explode when you shoot them, so, you know, that was kind of a bad design sort of decision on the part of Evolution to make these guys sort of so poppable. But if you have a big swarm of them and you don't have any shields, they will eat away your health almost immediately, like what happened to me earlier in the level.
So it really is about how the three different kinds of Flood work in tandem with one another, not how they are as individual enemies.
Exactly, because then the combat forms will either stay at a distance and pepper you with weapons, which some of them can have weapons like shotguns and rocket launchers, which will basically kill you in one hit, and so you need to learn to deal with those guys quickly. But then they will also leap huge distances, and they can take down your shield with 2 melee hits, I think probably on normal and heroic, 1 on legendary. And that, again, it's all about making sure you are not running out of shields when there are a lot of infection forms around, because you will just get eaten up.
It really does change the way you play the game for this level, and then of course in subsequent levels, the final levels of the game, when we have Flood and Covenant together, it's this constant kind of back and forth in your mind of, like, readjusting to who you're fighting.
Yes.
Which is part of the game's brilliance.
But it's why the library is, I think, an interesting level for me to play, even if, again, it is... I totally understand why a lot of people really hate this level. It's that, like, it is the most pure expression of what the Flood are as an enemy. It's just this constant oncoming, like, assault of all these different enemies that you just have to, again, make sure that you're on top of it. You have to not get overwhelmed, because their main strategy is overwhelming you.
Yes.
And that's very different than how the Covenant operate.
And I don't think the Flood are as, like, deep in terms of game design an enemy as the Covenant. The Covenant are much more repeatable, and you can do more with them, and there's more dynamics going on. But I think in concentrated bursts, the Flood have this wonderful kind of strategic way to fight them. And that's one of the reasons I value this level so much, is it is this very good concentrated burst, and it knows how much to use the Flood, and it knows how much not to use them, in that, again, they don't come in until halfway through, and there's only 2 levels where it's the Flood solo, basically.
Exactly.
And so I really like that about this game. I think, you know, again, look at Halo 2 for a game that uses the Flood way too much and kind of takes away what makes them interesting. Because you can never lean on them too hard. And Halo 3 probably falls into that too, with its infamous Cortana level.
Yes.
Which I love visually and narratively, but is kind of annoying game design-wise.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing about the Halo 1 Flood, you know, now that I'm in the thick of it here, is they're just very satisfying to fight. Like
now that you're drowning in it?
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Jonathan, for your terrible fucking puns. But it's the little details of the little ways that the Halo 1 Flood work, I think, are the reasons why I like fighting them more than this enemy type in later Halo games, is the stuff of how poppable these guys are. And you just, like, it's this really satisfying crunch, and then they will take out, if you get a really good one, you can take out, like, a whole bundle of those guys. You can take, like, 10, 12, maybe even, like, 20 of them in, like, one long chain effect if you can get them in a good spot.
And so, Sean, I'm sorry to interrupt. What are these giant blue things on the walls? I've never figured it out.
You know, they're big. They're, like, fluid containment systems.
Okay.
See?
Yeah, let's take a look at the remastered graphics for maybe the next hallway, because it's very different. This is obviously the level that I think when they announced we're making Halo Anniversary, everyone was like, what are you going to do to the library? Because the library, the biggest complaint you can have against it, I think, is the visual monotony of it.
Yes, and one of the main things they did was light it up a bit more so it's not all these, like, sort of, like, flat textured walls, and instead you have, like, this nice sort of, you know, again, sort of incorporating the more Halo 3 Forerunner aesthetic into the game. And then the big change they made is you'll notice, like, a lot of the lights and stuff are blue here. And as you progress up the library, because this whole level is basically you going up a series of floors to get back to the index, as you change floors, that color aesthetic will, like, subtly change based on which floor you're on, which it does not in the original graphics, which is one of the reasons why it just feels like it's like if you are in a room without windows for several hours and then you lose any sense of time or, like, place. That's what kind of playing the library on the original graphics feels like. Is it's just this, and is this the whole level?
And it's very dark. It's kind of hard to see.
Yes. But going back really quickly to what I was saying before about...
they also added those arrows on the ground.
Yes, they did do that as well.
That's an important thing.
You have a good sense of which way you're going, and it also sort of makes more sense of keeping with the aesthetic from Assault on the Control Room. Yes. But anyways.
I'm really embarrassed we said that much of that sentence together in tandem.
Yeah, well, I was waiting for you to stop saying stuff.
Okay. Well.
So anyways, going back to what I was saying before you interrupted me twice.
Sorry.
About fighting the Flood. So the infection forms, I like the sort of the crunchy poppiness of them. The other Flood type that I think is a lot more fun to fight in Halo 1 than in the later games is the carrier form. Because it is that classic Halo 1 explosion. Because those guys, they blow up real fucking good. And so you can take out a huge number of enemies by blowing up a carrier form in their midst. Or, as you'll say here, the carrier forms, when they explode, launch other carrier forms instead of just blowing them up immediately, which is how later Halo games tend to handle it. And that is so much fun and so fucking dangerous.
Yes.
Because you will absolutely just drop a carrier form right on top of your head and get blown up by them. And that kind of, there's a fun unpredictability to the way that they explode sometimes. That just makes them a way more satisfying enemy to fight than in the later Halo games where they just, you know, they don't do much. They don't have that kind of threat to them because the explosion is not as ridiculous as it is in this game.
I agree. I really do love that the Flood, there is a lot of, you know, rules to how they operate, and there's a lot of strategy involved in fighting them. But in this game in particular, they also feel very unpredictable, and that's part of what makes the library so much fun to me, is that it is this repeatable series of rooms, and yet you can never quite predict how it's going to go. And I like that about it.
Yes.
So the Halo 3 Flood that we have in the Anniversary Edition here have those little, like, red tentacle things on them.
Yeah.
That's just kind of given into their aesthetic. They're much more detailed character designs, obviously. I like all that. Although I do love the Halo 1 Flood because they just look so 2001. It's wonderful.
Yes. Let's switch back to those guys for a second.
Yeah. And this isn't even the most drastic change in graphics, but I think in terms of atmosphere, you really feel it.
Yeah. Again, there's just, like, that little bit of extra lighting and stuff, because this is still a dark level on the Anniversary Edition, but it's not as sort of featureless as the original library was.
You know, we talked about, we met 343 Guilty Spark earlier.
Yes.
We will talk about more. And of course, by the time of Anniversary, this was one of the first Halo games made by 343 Industries, right?
Yes.
I think it was the first release they put out.
Yeah, I mean, this was technically developed by Saber Interactive, but it was sort of licensed by 343.
Yeah. It was the first one that had their logo on it,
exactly.
I guess is what you'd say. And I think that's an interesting thing, that 343 has now become such a big part of the Halo culture. He's the name of the company that makes the games.
Yeah, it's just a good name. It's a good number. It's part of, like, Bungie's weird obsession with the number 7 and different things related to 7, because 343 is one of the exponents of 7.
This has been Math with Sean.
Yes, exactly. If you'll remember, I shooting that carrier form in the corner. Another AI behavior that the Halo 1 carrier forms have that I love is they're very shy little guys. They don't like to come at you straight on the way that all the other Flood forms do. They hide around little corners, and they're sneaky little fuckers. And so they have this like little bit of personality to them that I really like.
So here we've got some Sentinels helping you out.
Yes.
I fucking hate the Sentinels.
Yes.
I know right now they're our friends. I hate the Sentinels so much.
Yes, when you end up fighting Sentinels later, which maybe that might happen in the next level, who knows. They are not the most interesting enemies to fight for sure. Luckily, Halo 1 doesn't use them very much, so it's not a big deal.
I don't hate them because of Halo 1.
Yeah.
I hate them because of Halo 2.
Yes, where you have a whole level that's just about the Sentinels in Halo 2. But
the Sentinel Factory. It's not the name of the level, but that's where you go.
But yeah, there's a nice sense in this level of them being these little helpers, and it helps you kind of get more on 343's side, because, you know, he just sort of shows up out of nowhere and takes you here, and it's a nice little sort of game design way to sort of make the player a little bit affectionate to this floating little light bulb guy up here, is that he brings in these laser flying, like, plane things to help you out. And oh god. Yeah, that's the other thing, is that grenades don't blow the carrier forms up immediately. Grenades just send them flying, which is, again, it can just be extraordinarily dangerous.
It can create utter chaos.
Yes, because maybe you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to throw a grenade into this sort of batch of combat forms over here, and then a big carrier form goes flying through the air and lands on your head, and you're fucked.
So here we see some of the other lights, different colors.
It has changed its aesthetic to the sort of orange thing, which does not really do. I guess this symbol is different, but the color design, the color aesthetic does not change, whereas now we have these sort of orangey lights in places to sort of signal that we're on floor 2 in the Anniversary Edition.
We're only on floor 2?
Yes.
Man, how many floors are there? 4 or 5?
I don't remember. It's forever.
Yeah.
It's infinite floors, it might as well be.
It's basically the Halo equivalent of the Doctor Who episode Heaven Sent.
How many seconds? In eternity.
We're going to be punching through this glass wall for billions of years.
Yes. I'm going to stay on the old aesthetic for a while here, just to get that dankness.
Yes.
Get these flat textures.
There is something about the, like, simple monotony of it that is part of the original's weird charm.
Yeah.
The charm being Stockholm Syndrome, but still.
The one little detail I just noticed that I forgot to talk about in 343 Guilty Spark is that a little bit ago, if you were looking in the upper left corner, we had an objective update, which was to wait for 343 Guilty Spark. And that is the thing about when Cortana is not around that is the most stark to me in this game, is that Cortana is always the one telling you what your objective is going to be. And when she's gone, you don't even sometimes notice that your objective has updated to something else. In 343 Guilty Spark, we didn't take note of it, but it has the best objective in any Halo game, which is after you discover the Flood, it just says in the top left corner, escape, with an exclamation mark. But yeah, it's one of those little subtle things that sort of notes that you're on your own. There you see it's updated again, because 343 Guilty Spark has shown up here. But you don't have anyone to sort of, you know, snarkily talk to you about it, and it feels very lonely.
And that starkness, I think, is so key to the level, because there are some parts of this where it's just wait for 343 Guilty Spark. You don't know how long he's going to be, and there are some very difficult combat encounters in there. Like the one you just breezed through, we're on normal. I know that one can be a total bitch on heroic.
Oh yeah, any of the encounters where you get to one of the doors and you have to wait for him to return, those can be devastating. They are very hard most of the time.
Take out one of them, and then you take out a couple of them.
Yep.
You kind of always want to go for those guys first, especially if you're at a distance from them.
Yeah, that's always my strategy. That's why I have the pistol, because you just need to take those guys out from a distance, and it's 2 shots, and they pop. So it's a nice, reliable way to deal with it.
Once they pop, they just don't stop. I made that joke last time, didn't I?
Probably.
Okay.
I don't know. I
remember
don't
making
pay
that.
attention to the bad jokes you make.
Okay.
Which means I don't really listen to half the things you say, but, you know, the other half is tends to be fine.
Thanks.
So you can see here where we're getting more sentinels coming in here. And we get another door.
Yes. So many doors.
There's always another door.
I feel like 343 could have found a better way to get us upstairs to the index.
You know, there are protocols for these kinds of things, Jonathan. You can't just go straight to the index. You need to have a reclaimer fight their way through and walk all the way up. You can't just take the elevator. It's just... Well, you have to take the elevator, but you have to take each of the elevators.
Yes.
It's the way it was programmed to be. Because this is where we're getting little bits of more sort of information and hints about the Forerunner stuff of 343 Guilty Spark calling the Master Chief the Reclaimer and sort of talking about all these weird protocol stuff you don't have any context for, stuff that even then, like, later you don't know once you sort of, like, get a sense of, oh, 343 Guilty Spark has pretty much lost his fucking mind.
Yes.
You don't know how much of what he's talking about is utter bullshit or how much of it is actually totally true.
The terminals in the Anniversary Edition, if I'm not mistaken, they're kind of about 343's story, aren't they?
Yes, they tell the story of how, like, he slowly kind of, like, lost his mind over the course of the centuries or whatever.
I have not gone back and watched those since probably I played this the first time on the 360, the Anniversary Edition. I think I went through and got them on Xbox One. I don't know if I watched them all.
Yeah, but it's an interesting little addition. You know, I think it's not, like, world-changing in terms of the lore or anything, but it's...
Very nice bonus.
Yes.
Like, as collectibles go, that's way better than, I don't know, Assassin's Creed Crystal Shards or whatever
or,
they do.
you know, yeah, picking up 100 feathers or whatever bullshit so your mom can knit you a cape. Which is always...
Is that a thing in Assassin's
Yes,
Okay.
that's what happens in Assassin's Creed 2. If you collect all the feathers, she knits you a cape that, if I remember correctly, makes you notorious in every single city in the game. So it's, like, also the worst cape to wear. So it's like, thanks, Mom.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cold. I like this little part, mixes it up a little bit here, where you have to go through these little dense hallways.
Yeah.
Where you can get really fucked up if you don't shoot those guys from a distance.
Yeah, there's no... If they get up on you and when you're down here, there's nowhere for you to run.
But I like these areas. What does this look like in Anniversary?
Whoop.
Yeah, there we go. That's a big change.
Yeah.
The lighting helps. In the original Anniversary Edition on the 360, that was very slow.
Yes,
The
now
changes.
it's...
You can do this instantaneously now, but you could not before.
Yeah, it takes a second the first time you do it, but once you do it once, it's like, here you go.
Oh god. There's so many of them.
There are. There will be many more to come.
343 just called himself a genius. I love that line
Yes,
of dialogue.
yeah. It's probably his most famous and enduring bit of dialogue.
He's just so charming and cheerful, even though he's an insane person, or robot,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, this is, I remember going back to Hail of the Flood, the book written by William C. Dice. It's the worst book I've ever read. This is actually probably one of the more interesting sections of that book because it allows you to sort of, because that book is basically just a game facts of Halo written in, like, very sort of standard military fiction prose. But it does allow you to sort of spend a little bit of time absorbing the weird dialogue that 343 has, and when he talks about you have, like, a class 2 containment suit or some bullshit, he's like, why would you bring something so primitive? Why don't you have a class 7? Or, I don't remember all the specifics, but it's stuff like that.
As the Spartan fought his way through the facility, the Monitor, who floated above it all, offered commentary. These Sentinels will supplement your combat systems, but I suggest you upgrade to at least a Class 12 combat skin. Your current model only scans as a Class 2, which is unsuited for this kind of work. If there's a battle suit 6 times as powerful as Mjolnir armor, he thought, I'll be first in line to try it on.
It gives you a good opportunity to sort of, sit there and, listen to what he's saying, which is all stuff that, when you kind of get when you grow up and get the bigger context of how probably a lot of that stuff was written, it was all bullshit when they were writing it.
Yes.
But when you're 12, It's the most fascinating thing in the world. It's like, oh, they have it all figured out. It's all secret. It's like, oh, like what were the Forerunners humans? Where it's like all this stuff. It's so fascinating.
I mean, it's one of the keys to good lore that I think we don't talk. It's like one of the secrets of good lore is that sometimes it's just bullshit.
Exactly. So it's just like a series of words that kind of sounds cool, but really means nothing. So you just read whatever you want into it.
Like sometimes it's fun when the creators don't just have the answers planned out.
Exactly. Yeah. There you saw the first instance of the Flood having rocket launchers, which
it's very dangerous.
Basically have nightmares about at some point on Heroic and Legendary. Because, you know, if that hits you, you are dead. And it is a terrifying... I mean, it's one thing to talk about with the combat forms, is unless you've been playing the multiplayer, this is the first time you've ever had someone shoot human weapons at you, or unless, you know, you just murder Marines all the time.
Sure.
Then the Marines will attack you.
What the hell are you doing?
Security to the bridge. The Master Chief has gone rampant. Take him down, boys.
But generally speaking, for most players, this is the only regular time in the game you have human weapons aimed at you. So you have rocket launchers aimed at you, you have shotguns aimed at you, and you have, you know, you have like that staccato of the assault rifle when they have that coming at you. And there's something weirdly stressful about that, because I feel like the Covenant weapons are more designed to be shot at the player than for you to shoot them at enemies in some ways, because they're not hit scan, because the projectiles take time to hit the target. You have an ability to dodge them, which you do not with human weapons. If they shoot human weapons at you and they're aimed at you, you will get hit immediately as soon as the gun fires. That's basically how they work. And so, other than the rocket launcher, but then that is its own other, like, bottle of holy shit, don't shoot that thing at me.
Well, you know what? While we're going through and shooting all these Flood, I think that's actually a really interesting point to talk about. Explain, like, hit scan and the difference between that, because it's a fascinating part of the game design here.
Well, so hit scan weapons, it's a very common thing in most first-person shooters, is one way to handle weapon design is that instead of sort of modeling a projectile when I fire my pistol and, you know, trying to model, like, the time it will take for that projectile to hit the target and everything like that, instead it's just you pull the trigger and you do your bullet effects or whatever where it impacts the target, but it hits the target instantly. And so it's referred to as hit scan, as opposed to if you use like the plasma weapons in this, or if you think of like Doom, the granddaddy of all first-person shooters, where your weapons in Doom, other than I think the plasma cannon and the rocket launcher, like your pistol and shotgun and stuff in Doom are all hit scan weapons, but all the enemies, like the imps and stuff, they shoot projectiles at you that have, like, time, and so you can see them coming at you, and you have an ability to dodge them and maneuver around them. But if you're playing something like a Call of Duty, every weapon other than a grenade launcher or rocket launcher will be a hit scan weapon in a Call of Duty. So even the enemies will shoot, you know, AK-47s at you that you have no capacity to dodge or, like, maneuver around projectiles in those kinds of games.
In its simplest form, I kind of just think of Duck Hunt and the way it does that with the light gun.
Yes.
Where the way that works on an old TV is they will just light up the screen with one light area. It'll detect if your light gun is pointing at that area, and that's how it'll decide if you've hit it or not. And that's kind of the basic idea behind it. And of course, that becomes much more complex with graphically complicated games like this and actual controllers. But that's one way to kind of break
and
it down.
hitboxes that aren't just giant rectangles.
Yes, exactly. But yes, so yeah, I mean, because there is an actual physicality to the plasma weapons, that's part of why there is that physicality, is because they're not hit scan.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just, it makes them more interesting weapons to be shot at with, because having an ability to maneuver around and dodge the projectiles adds an element of skill to the game.
It's a huge part of Doom. Like, if you want a good example of this, any Doom game will do, but the most recent, 2016 Doom, so much of, like, the symphonic dancing of that game is built around the non-hit scan weapons coming at you.
But so when you're used to having these, like, projectile-based weapons firing at you, having these guys with shotguns, that if that guy with that shotgun had gotten up on me and fired his gun, I would have been dead basically immediately. I might have survived it because it's normal, but normally you'd be just totally fucked because it will just hit you as soon as it fires. And there you get an example of a carrier form explosion blowing up grenades, which is the most terrifying thing in the world.
Those sound effects are so gross, of the Flood, like, bursting out of things.
And just like that, like the little, like, creakly, squeechy noises that the infection forms make. It definitely, like I said in the last part, they have in like organicness to them and a gross fleshiness to them that are very, very important to changing the more kind of, you know, metallic and sort of industrialized feeling of the Covenant, the space industrialized feeling of the Covenant with their curvy purple metals and energy shields and stuff.
And what's interesting, you know, we talked about the music, that Halo is often totally content with being silent when it needs to be. This level pretty constantly has some amount of music underneath. It's just this very ambient, very creepy kind of thing that bleeds into the sound design, and you might not even notice it's there. But like right now, if you listen, there is music going on. It's just not the kind of thing you'd maybe notice on the soundtrack, for instance.
Until this section happens, and the like Psycho-style screeching strings start playing, because you know shit's going down. And there's really, you know, these kinds of sections in this level, there's really nowhere to go other than just back yourself in a corner and hope that you can shoot and reload fast enough to take care of everything that's coming at you. Which, when you're playing this on Legendary, when you play this on Legendary, a lot of times you do not have the capacity to just kill everything.
No.
So you see some of the gross, like, green fluid or whatever. I don't even know if you call it blood.
What do they do in the new version? It's just gone.
Yeah.
I feel like Anniversary, if it didn't have the original graphics like contained within it, they could have just re-rated this game teen, because they take out all the blood effects, or many of them.
Yes, but yeah, Halo 1 is just, it's a weirdly bloody game.
It's a beautifully bloody game, is what you mean. It's a symphony of blood.
Because again, it just allows moments where when you are done with the fight, before I move on here, you can just look at the carnage that I left in my wake and look at all those nice green stains. Beautiful. So now we're moving through another giant door into another hallway that is around the giant whatever in the middle that leads up to the index. Maybe actually, let's go take a look over here while I have this chain of flood coming at me back here. I don't know if you can actually, you can't quite see the index yet. But it's up there, I promise.
And there are some secrets if you go around that area, right? In some of these, we can kind of get on top of things and...
Yeah, there are trick jumps and stuff you can do. If there's an achievement for, I don't remember the exact time limit, but there's basically an achievement for being the library on Legendary in a ludicrously short amount of time. That basically the only reliable way to do it is to trick jump your way through some sections and basically make it so that the enemies don't load in because you skipped past loading blocks, and so they just don't trigger. And that's always fun to do, but you know, if we did that for this game, because I don't remember exactly where all of them are. I only remember some of the ones that are near the beginning. So obviously, it
would kind of defeat the purpose of this series.
Yes,
where we're trying
if we
to
just
talk
skip
about the game
whole
itself.
level. Yeah.
We did that on Assault in the Control Room because it's fun, and you know.
And that was a small part of that level. That's the only little last little bit there.
Oh god, they have a lot of guns.
Yes, this is where you back up and reevaluate
all your life choices.
Make sure that this little sneaky fucker doesn't get up on you.
God, and at some point it's just this like sea of popcorn flood coming at you.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's like I said, it's just something that you have to manage, and you have to stay on top of these guys, because if you don't, they will get you. Sometimes I do just let them just pop on my energy shields, because, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's always fun to try to time that melee to pop them out of the air.
Nice.
So now you can see, like, when you don't have 3 carrier forms and a flood of infection forms coming at you, you can just sort of, like, deal with these guys. But it's when you have all those piled on top of one another, you can't sort of just, like, specify, okay, I need to, like, pop this guy with a pistol, pop that guy with a pistol, get this guy with a shotgun. Sometimes you just need to back up and let them, like, sort of come at you in waves because they have different movement speeds. And then you can see the shotgun. Instant kill. Hit scam.
Well, what I was going to say before that happened is that, yeah, the Flood are so built to be this super powerful unit. If they're all together on you, they can kind of be unstoppable, especially on higher difficulties. So you do have to take it slow and take them in pieces and not let them all come up on you at once, because you will be fucked.
Yes.
Or if they have a shotgun, you will be fucked, but that's a different thing.
I'm just going to blow their arms off. Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. I'll try to do a thing if I can find a good... Because you can't always necessarily plan for it, but one thing that is fun to do is if you get a Flood that is playing dead for you, and then you go up and pop off his arms, he will pop up, and he'll have no arms, and he will not be able to fight you, but he will just follow you around.
Nice.
You can get a little pet that way. Or sometimes you can get their arms to pop off when they're still alive, and it's a little bit harder to do. Oh, Jesus Christ, that guy had a shotgun also.
Well, at least you lived, but you lost a lot of health.
Yes. This is one of those situations where if you're not paying attention, those guys will just eat you up.
Yes.
You know. Because there's a weird, like, sort of risk-reward thing with the shotgun flood, where, like, they will kill you immediately, but also they are the ones that make it so that you can keep using the shotgun here.
Right.
Because they bring you all your ammo. So you have I have a complicated relationship with the shotgun flood. It's like I get kind of happy when I see one. I also get stressed out when I see one because I know that they can take me out if I'm not careful.
Well, and that's part of the interesting, you know, like effect of this level is that you've got to stay on your toes, but the monotony of it makes it harder and harder to stay on your toes. And that is obviously part of what annoys some people about this level, but I also, to me, it's part of the, like, just exhilarating aspect of it.
I mean, when you get through the library, particularly when you're playing the game on Legendary, it feels like you've somehow accomplished something incredible. Like,
yes.
just it feels like a legitimate achievement in a weird way. Oh, Jesus. This encounter. Well, I'm on normal, so it should be fine. Also, oh, health pack. There we go.
Hold your position until the monitor returns.
Yep.
I love that music.
Yeah. Like, the Flood are real fucking assholes, you know? It's just like they wait until 343 leaves, and then they're like, okay, now get him. It's like, fuck off. If they attacked like 5 seconds earlier, then 343 would be like, oh, okay, here, I'll give you some sentinels. Let's do this. But no. Little fucking assholes. Get out of here. Yeah, this is one of those encounters where because you have them coming in from these two holes,
it can be so hard.
Yes, it is very hard to manage these guys all at once. Luckily, on normal, I should be able to stay on top of it.
Oh boy, there you got a chain explosion.
Yep, that living from that was mostly luck. If
yes.
one of those grenades had been more in my direction than away from me, I would have definitely been dead there. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus.
You can do it.
Yep, I just need to make sure I'm not eating.
You were eating a little bit.
Oh, you know, I shook it off. There we go.
Oh boy. Those can be, even on normal, those can be such harrowing moments.
Yeah, I get it. It's just like you have to weather the storm. There's no...
Oh, there you are, Sentinels.
Yes.
Jerks.
Oh, you know, they were taking care of this obviously dire situation that was occurring out here. You know, like, look how there was like 2, maybe 3 guys out here. Well, let's see what I had to deal with. Oh, maybe this was a little bit more. Maybe this had... Let's see, there's where I almost lost my life here. It's a little bit of blood. Look at all this fucking shit I had to deal with. They killed like 2 guys out here. What the fuck? I mean, you've got some serious plumbing issues, is all I'm saying. You've got shit coming out of these things constantly.
What are those things, anyway?
I don't know, they're ducts of some kind. I don't know.
Why couldn't we use those to climb up to the index?
There are protocols, Jonathan. You have to go take the fucking sequential elevators one by one. It's how it works. It's what the 4 Runners would have wanted, you know? They're sticklers with this kind of bullshit.
Whoever and whatever they are.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, that was definitely a pretty good grenade.
You blew them up, but good.
This guy landed in an uncomfortable position.
Yes.
I like it took me a while the first time I played Halo 1 to sort of put together that this was an elite, because their, like, silhouette is so different because their head thing just sort of flops down. But it's a good look. Like, it's a really good character design, I think. Silly infection forms. You can't eat sentinels. I've lost count of how many elevators it has been.
I don't know
already.
which floor we're on.
This is the 3rd elevator, maybe? Or maybe it's the 4th one. Maybe it's the 20th one. Who knows?
There is no way to tell. Here, spin and just constantly change the graphics, and let's see if we can give any of our viewers a seizure.
Oh, that's a great idea. Now you have to put a warning on this video. Though
There we go.
that change is probably not fast enough to do anything to anybody.
Yeah. One day.
Is that your goal? Is that why we're doing video content now? I did because I was interested in doing Let's Plays. You're interested because you want to give people fucking seizures.
Hey, Pokemon did it. I want to do it.
You know, Pokemon's done a lot of things over the years that, you know, maybe you shouldn't emulate. Like, you know, you don't have Phoebe go out and fight other dogs, do you?
No, I don't.
You don't force her into blood sports.
I do not.
Well, then maybe you just shouldn't do whatever Pokemon does. That's all I'm saying.
Phoebe's not here today. She could be getting into all sorts of trouble. I don't know.
I mean, who knows?
Phoebe's with other people. I didn't, like, just let her go outside and be like, go play while we're playing Halo.
Yes, go catch some fucking rats in the grass or something.
Oh.
God, these assholes just come out of everywhere. Oh, that was 2 with 1 shot.
Nice.
Bring it up.
Oh, he was playing dead.
Yeah, I think
They both were playing dead.
he's deceased. It's something. It can be pretty hard to get that thing with having them no arms work out because you can never quite tell which ones are which. We'll see if that guy comes up. No. Nope. Another door, but this one has a tunnel.
Yay. Oh boy. That's a hard one if you don't have a pistol.
I mean, it's something where, because I've played this level enough times, I know every single time you come down one of these little tunnels, just come down with your pistol zoomed all the way in, because there's almost always some asshole at the back you need to blow up.
Yeah.
Just get the fuck out of here. Off my ass. Okay.
Here's some more.
Oh god, shotgun. Okay. That was bad. You don't want to miss the first shot when the shotgun guy drops in. That's always a really bad feeling. Okay, this guy's gonna get back up. Ah, damn it. Did catch him in time. One thing I like, because I just did it there, that's fun about the Halo 1, is when you do that melee, you can see it, the firing the gun right after that melee. It's sort of a weird effect where it fires in the middle at the end of that animation.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's something that...
It's the kind of thing that you might not ever notice because
Yeah.
it goes by very fast, but it's cool to see.
There's just something weird about how they program the timing on when you can shoot after you've meleeed, because it's just a little bit sooner than the full reset. So you can see, like, that barrel was not pointed straight, and yet it still fired straight. Physics of video games.
Very weird, but fun. Alright, and now we have another hallway to walk through.
Yeah. Let's switch to the new graphics for a while.
Okay, sounds fun. We gotta mix it up.
Fortunately, I already am full up on health. Random person that died with carrying a med pack.
So at some point in these endless strings of hallways, there's some of those gaps there in the floor, but they're covered in glass, and you can break the glass and fall in, and you will die unless the game glitches. And here's what happened to me once. So co-op story. My brother and I were playing this on co-op, and we got to like the 4th or 5th floor, so near the end of the library, right?
Yes.
And I fell into one of those, and somehow I lived. Like, it glitched, and I'm down at the bottom of that. I can't get out, but I'm alive. Meanwhile, my brother is fighting all the flood up there, and he dies. And then he respawns with me down there, and it checkpoints. And so we were checkpointed in, like, this hole where the player is not supposed to go.
Right.
You cannot get out. There's no way out. And we were checkpointed there, and we were just fucked. And, like, it was either a heroic or legendary run where, like, and we were younger, so it was, like, very exciting. This would have been on pre-anniversary, so, like, the original Xbox disc. And we were so, it's so hard to make it through the library when you're younger. And we were so excited because we were almost at the end, and then that fucking glitch happened, and we didn't play the game for, like, a week.
Okay.
It was so annoying. Has anything like that ever happened to you in this?
Not on this level. I've definitely gotten stuck with weird checkpoints in Halo in the past, though.
Yeah.
This is where these guys jump through.
Nice.
I like that. It's something, they don't have a lot to work with in the library in some ways, but I like when they throw a little twist at you, like having them jump through the door when it's halfway open.
For mindless zombie creatures, the Flood have a real sense of theatricality.
They do have a bit of a weird personality in this game, I think. With the shy infection forms and just like them waiting until the doors are all the way closed or like jumping through there. they have like a sense of something to them that I like. That they're not just mindless. And actually, there was while you're telling your story, 343 Guilty Spark was telling us a little bit about that the Flood are repairing the Pillar of Autumn.
That's not our already part of repairing the vessel. Its parasitic nature belies the Flood's intelligence.
Which is something you see in the last level of the game. And so it is something you do get a little bit more of a sense of, that there is that, what we later will like come to call the Grave Mind.
I am a monument to all your sins.
But there is like this hive mind element to the Flood, that they have some sort of weird objective to consume everything, and they are very tenacious, and they're not just mindless in that pursuit.
Oh, I love you can see the head on that guy.
Yes, on the humans.
Right there. That was interesting. That's more prominent in the anniversary graphics.
Yeah.
But it's very gross.
Yeah, it's a bit more vestigial.
Yes. Luckily, no popcorn here to take down your health.
Nope.
Well, there's a shotgun.
There's a lot of combat forms in this part of the level.
Yes.
So we're basically, I think we're at the end, are we? Is that the last part?
That might be.
Yes.
You can never tell.
Yes, I think we are basically at the end of the library.
Went by faster than I thought it would.
Well, we are playing on normal, so if this was on heroic, I would have died a lot more.
This is true. I'm glad we did this on normal. You still get a good sense for it.
Get the classic sprint.
Yes, to the end. And there we are. We beat the library.
Yep, we checked out our books. We have to just make sure that we get them back before they're overdue.
We're gonna blow the shit out of this Halo, so I don't know if that's really gonna work, but yeah.
Right, because, okay, so this is like the thing is you have to get up here and you have to go through all the elevators to get the thing that goes down that, like, unlocks the index or some bullshit. Because we actually could have seen the index if I had gone to look at it at the bottom. That's how the weird geometry of the library works. Because that's, you know, they needed to make a video game level.
Bullshit video game logic
Yes.
at its best. And here we go. Chief taking his library card.
Then 343 Guilty Spark does this, which I find kind of inexplicable what he just does with the index there, but...
It's one of the weird AI things in these games.
Yeah.
The index must not fall into the hands of the Flood.
You know, it's like plugging Cortana's chip into the holographic console. It just works.
The Flood is spreading. We must hurry.
So now we must return to the control room that we have gotten the index, Jonathan.
We'll see what happens next.
On 2 Betrayals.